For ages, mankind has pondered the question, what makes the perfect scone? Well, we might not have the answer to that question, but Team Hawking does like to have a little taste of high tea while we're in production. I'm Bernie Gabin, the Technical Director for the Mrs. Hawking shows, and here's the recipe I use when I make scones for the cast and crew. I've developed this scone recipe over several years through trial and error, and by combining the parts of several recipes that I like. Today, we will be making a double batch. Feel free to have these values if you want to make fewer scones. The ingredients you will need are about 8 cups of flour. The type isn't hugely important, but I generally use all-purpose. Make sure to reserve some extra flour for hands and work surfaces. About half a cup of sugar, 4 tablespoons of baking powder, 4 tablespoons or half a stick of unsalted butter, cut into small cubes, 4 tablespoons or half a stick of unsalted cream cheese, also cut into small cubes. The recipe works better if the fats are cold, so I suggest putting the butter and cream cheese into the freezer for a few minutes after you've cut them up. 1 cup of whole milk or light cream. I prefer light cream. 3/4 cup of heavy cream. If you want to add any mix-ins, such as berries or nuts, you will want to get about 1 cup of those. To make tea-flavored scones, you will want 3 to 4 bags of tea of your choice. I find that Earl Grey works very well for this application. Now that we have everything, let's begin. Step 1. Combine the milk or light cream with the heavy cream in a bowl or large measuring cup. Then cut the contents of the Earl Grey tea packets into the milk and set aside to allow time for them to steep. Step 2. Combine the dry ingredients into a large bowl. Make sure to fully mix together the flour, sugar, and baking powder. Step 3. Add the chilled cubes of butter and cream cheese to the dry ingredients. Then use a pastry cutter or your fingers to integrate them with the flour mixture. Keep going until the dough has a texture of wet sand. Don't make things too uniform, but make sure you break up any large chunks. If you're using any mix-ins, this is also when you want to add them. Step 4. Pour the milk and the heavy cream into your mixture. Don't worry about the tea leaves, they can go in as well. Then, mix until the liquid is just incorporated. You're looking to bring things together into a soft dough. Use your hands if necessary, and make sure to check for a layer of unincorporated flour on the bottom of the bowl. Step 5. Once everything is incorporated into the dough, lightly sprinkle flour over your work surface. Turn out the dough and lightly knead it 4 to 6 times. Add flour to your hands and the surface as needed to reduce sticking. Then, pat it out into an even thickness of about 1 inch. Cover with a clean towel and let it sit in the fridge for a minimum of a half an hour. Step 6. While the dough is resting, preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Step 7. Once the dough is done resting, turn it out onto your floured work surface. Flour the edge of your biscuit cutter or the edge of a glass if you like. Use it to cut out as many scones as you can from the dough, pressing straight down without twisting. Lay each scone out onto a sheet pan lined with parchment paper, with the edges of the scones just touching. Any scraps of dough that remain after the first cut can be rolled out again and cut once more, but keep in mind that these scones will not rise quite as much in the oven. Step 8. Pop the baking sheet into the oven on the middle rack. Cook for 10 minutes on the first side, then rotate and cook for another 8 minutes. Step 9. Once baked, remove the baking sheet from the oven. Use a spatula to break apart the scones and transfer them one at a time to a wire rack to cool for at least 10 minutes before serving. After that, enjoy!
You love them. You love to hate them. And no story can do without them.